Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let's start this 14th international webinar on managing HR in a multi-generational workforce. Respected dignitaries, panel members and participants from Bahamas, Bermuda, Central African Republic, India, Indonesia, Malaysia, Mauritius, Nepal, Nigeria, North Africa, Oceania, Pakistan, Switzerland, Syria, USA and Yemen. On behalf of the ASBM family, I welcome you all to this 14th international webinar on managing HR in a multi-generational workforce. It's my honor and privilege to introduce the eminent panelists and provide a prelude over the topic in this gathering. In this context, first I would like to introduce Mr. Ajay Kumar Sahu, Executive Director and Group Corporate HR, RP Sanjeev Goenka Group. Mr. Sahu holds a master's degree in Personnel Management and Labour Welfare from Utkal University and postgraduate program in Executive Coaching from CFI. He has nearly 3 decades of corporate experience in both business HR and corporate HR functions. He has been associated with RP Sanjeev Goenka Group since 2010. He drives the strategic HR intervention encompassing about 20 group of companies, leadership hiring, talent management, leadership development, succession planning, competency framework and assessment. Prior to RPSG Group, he worked in Tata Steel, BSNL and Vijaya Bank. He is a certified practicing CEO coach trained by CFI and has been an assessor in close to 100 assessment development centers in various companies including RPSG Group, Tata Steel, Voltas, Tata Communication, etc. He also is certified EQI 2.0 and EQI 360 practitioner, a certified interviewer on behavioral event interviews, and has been mentored to many younger professionals. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us today. Now I would like to introduce our eminent speaker, Mr. Pardhasarathi Veluri, Director HR, Medisys EduTech Private Limited, India. Mr. Pardhasarathi holds a MBA degree in Human Resource Management and also has done MA and MPhil in Social Science from Central University. He has over 32 years of experience in the HR and IR profession in manufacturing, education, service, infrastructure sectors. Before Medisys, he worked in BT and BT Management Consulting Private Limited as President People Solution. He also worked as HR head in Indu Project Limited, Global Steel Holding Limited, Bulgaria, Nagarjun Fertilizers and Chemical Limited. Thank you, sir, for being with us today. Finally, I would like to introduce our eminent speakers, Dr. Stephanie Gillis Merrick, instructor and human resource professional of Georgia Institute of Technology, USA. Dr. Stephanie Merrick is an instructor at Georgia Institute of Technology, Atlanta, USA. Her teaching specialization is management and leadership, and her area of interest are workplace learning, career development, employee engagement, executive coaching, leadership, and organizational development. Dr. Merrick holds a master's degree in human resource management and bachelor degree in human resource development and a doctorate degree in leadership and organizational change. She is a certified strength coach and has over 15 years of experience in professional development training. She is the 2019 recipient of a fellowship with the interest in sexual harassment in the workplace in university environment at Georgia Institute of Technology in the advanced program. Dr. Merrick Consulting Business Solution, always simple, works with corporate executive, higher education and entrepreneurs within organization and independent business of all sizes. She helps companies with their leadership and development by providing customer service training, communication skills, and performance management. Dr. Merrick is a motivational speaker. She does keynote address on a variety of topics, including the D attitude of learning, life learning, and every encounter is an opportunity. A couple of her clients include ITT Technical College, DCAL Public Schools, DCAL Workforce, Georgia Institute of Technology. Thank you, ma'am, for being with us today discussion forum. Dear audience, the multi-generation makeup of modern workforce is a driving force of change for organizations. Companies are finding to be flexible to handle the vast differences in their employees from baby boomers to Generation Z in the areas ranging from the use of technology to expectations around how the company will interact with them, support them, and allow them to do the job effectively and efficiently. This workplace makeup is also behind trends in HR policy and tools from the hiring process to benefits offered. Today's multi-generational workforce has similarity to the popular modern family concept, complete with misunderstandings and disagreements. Just like the family members in the show, employees, regardless of which generation they belong, want to be accepted for who they are and what they are being to be the table. When it comes to the millennial and Generation Z, they need to be immediately see and understand the value they bring to the organization. The current workforce has also reached an unprecedented tipping point, with millennial comprising the largest section of the working demography. Some experts point to the significant world events that happened during a generation's formative years and insist that certain quality and characteristics are result of these events. Others insist that what we call generation difference have nothing to do with the specific generation and everything to do with people changing as they progress through various life stages. Considering this as a backdrop, I once again welcome you all to this August gathering. Now I would like to request Mr. Ajay Kumar Sahu to share his deliberation. Sir, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Das, and very good. Yes.
Mr. Sahu.
Yes, are you able to hear me? Are you able to hear me?
Yeah. Sir, yes. Sir, please continue.
Yeah. Okay. So, very good evening to all of you, all the participants. Yes. Am I audible?
That country does not know because they are stuck in those language traditions. But now they will.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So the topic on which I'm going to share my thoughts today is managing human resources in a multi-generational workforce. Let me decode this topic into two parts. One is about managing the human resources, and the second part is multi-generational workforce. So when we look at this topic, this is something which is not new. This particular aspect of managing HR for the multi-generational workforce has been there for the last so many decades. If we talk about the career span in an organization, say, which spans about 40 years, in a span of 40 years, we are likely to see about at least 3 generations of workforce. So this has been there even 10 years back, even 20 years back, 30 years back. What is more important today is the change in the context. The context has completely changed over the last say decade or so, 1.5 decades. So when we talk, first let's come to the aspect of managing human resources. So when we look at the evolution of HR globally, it has moved from the concept of managing the welfare of the employees to managing personnel, which we used to call as personnel management. Then comes the collective bargaining, industrial relations, managing the unions. Then comes the compliance part, the statutory compliances, the various compliances under different kinds of regulatory framework. And latest role of HR has been basically managing the strategic HR piece as well as being as a business HR partner to the business. This is how the evolution of HR has happened. And if we see the journey of HR over last, say, 1 century or so, the role has been moved more from being the welfare officer to labor manager to personnel manager, then human resource management, and the strategic human resource management or business partnership management, what we call it. So with the change of time, the change in the role of HR has happened over a period of time. So keeping this in the context, if we look at the context for the HR function, there are primarily two aspects. One, what we can call it a hardware aspect, which is basically creating the HR framework, the talent acquisition process, talent management process, or say human resource management system, performance management in the system, learning and development, the entire life cycle management, creating the framework for that is the hardware part. However, the software part, which is most critical, is how do we manage the emotions of people in the workplace? How do we manage the culture? How do we manage the various kind of dynamics, the relationships which exist in the organizational context? So that is where managing the human resource is becoming more and more critical over a period of time, because the context has completely changed. With the technological advancement, with the entire globe having shrunk as far as the communication, the connectedness is concerned, the world has become a smaller place and people are well informed about each and everything. So with this context, the role of human resource has become more and more critical over a period of time. Coming to the second part about the multi-generational workforce. As Dr. Das told in his opening remarks, that we have seen a huge amount of diversity change over the last, say, 1 or 2 decades, whether it is in terms of gender diversity, whether in terms of age diversity, social, cultural, political, economic, geographical. There are a host of diversities which we have to manage in the workplace. Since the focus here is on the multi-generational diversity, multi-generational workforce, I will focus my perspective only on the multi-generational diversity. So today, if we look at the organization, let us say, considering the professional span as 40 years, today we will find in the workplace people who are born probably around 1960 and till the age of 2000. So we have 3 different generations of people who are part of the workforce. Like if we talk about Generation Z, which is from age 8 to 23. Generation Y, which are basically millennials in the age group of 24 to 39. Generation X with the age group of 40 to 55. The baby boomers who are in the age group of 54 to 74. And of course, we have the veterans who are in the age group of 75 and above. So in an organization, we have to manage the expectations of the entire generation of people who are working. So it is very important to consider what are the defining characteristics of the multi-generation of people who are working in the organizations. So if we talk about the baby boomers who are in the age group of 1946 to 1964, typically their defining characteristics will be loyalty to the organization, self-motivation, very high work ethic, their experience, they come with the wisdom, they are focused on their financial stability, their retirement plans. Whereas when we talk about the Generation X, who are basically, they are more focused on their ability to learn new technologies, highly educated, again, they have very good work ethic, high leadership potential, they are self-reliant, and their focus is more on the work-life balance. Now coming to the millennials, again, they are very idealistic but flexible in their approach. They are tech savvy. They are able to integrate work and life very well. They are ambitious. They are focused on their career growth. Coming to the latest generation, which is Generation Z, they are very different in terms of their approach, because they are the generation who who are born in the internet era. So they are multicultural, very tech savvy. They are able to multitask. They are independent. Their average tenure in an organization is very short, and they are focused on their learning with a purpose. They want to learn just not for the sake of learning, but they want to learn something which has a very high purpose for them. So with these complexities in the organization, it creates a huge challenge in terms of how to manage this people processes when you have people in the age group of 20 to 60. For example, I represent a group which has more than 20 companies, and we have companies which are where the average age group is 24, 25. At the same time, we have manufacturing companies where the average age group would be 40, 45, 47. So we have a mix of people who are very young as well as who are very experienced in terms of age as well as work experience. So it's very important for the HR function to identify how will we be able to integrate all these people and manage their expectations to the best of everyone's abilities. So some of the thoughts which I would like to share with you all here, what are the critical factors to manage the multi-generational workforce? One of the key factors will be, it is very critical to understand the preferred management styles of each and every organization, each and every employee. How do we understand each of the generational cohort and accommodate generational differences in their attitude, values, behaviors, etc. For example, someone who is very young at the age of 23, 24, 25 would come with a different, very different value system, behaviors, attitude, very high energy level, everything. I want to do everything very quickly. Whereas someone who is with experience would always focus more about the processes, about the time, about following the framework. So you have to integrate. It is very critical to integrate the expectations of these two or three groups of people. Another aspect which works very well, which we use in our group, is we always try to coach people and help them grow in the organization. So the coaching can be done by the experienced people. When the youngsters come to the organization, they are coached in terms of what are our values, what is the culture, what are the competencies of the group which we follow, and we try to integrate everyone into that. The third critical point would be identifying the differences and form teams. So obviously, when you have people with different diversity, different age groups, there are likelihood of a lot of differences in terms of their thinking. So we identify the differences and we form cross-functional teams which comprises of people from younger generation and the older generation and work with a common objective. But at the same time, we do not dwell too much on the differences which they are likely to have. Our focus is more on how can we bring them together, make them work together. Ultimately, we are working for a common objective of the organization, and how do we achieve that common objective? One of the most critical aspect is building collaborative relationship. Irrespective of the age, gender, social background, economic background, it is always very important to create an environment wherein collaboration becomes the key for people to work together. And also creating opportunities for the cross-generational mentoring. How can we mentor somebody who is young? And we also very closely follow the process of reverse mentoring. Let me give an example. If we have a management trainee who is joining at the age of 23, 24, he or she comes with a very high technological capability. Technologically very, very strong. So we take help from the younger people to teach the older generation on how to work on a Microsoft Outlook, how to work on Excel, PowerPoint, so many things. How to share presentation in a Zoom or WebEx or anything. So the older generation may not be too conversant with that. So by way of reverse mentoring, we also take help from the younger generation. The last part of my thoughts would be, we have a very strong competency framework, which is like a building blocks for all our group companies. We have created that framework wherein each and every employee of the organization, irrespective of the function, age, experience, irrespective of that, they fall into the category of this competency framework. So, to give an example, we have 8 competencies in this framework, like how do we ensure uncompromised quality? So there is no compromise on the quality, irrespective of whichever function, what is your age, gender, it doesn't matter. The ultimate objective is to deliver the quality output for the organization. That is the first competency. The second competency is being process oriented. Whatever is my, say, mental condition, whatever is my thinking, but I have to work within the framework of processes which have been laid down by the organization. I can't go beyond the process which are laid down. The third one is making things happen. Basically, jointly, collaboratively, and as a team, we have to make things happen. That is another competency which very strongly practiced by our group. The fourth competency is building collaborative relationship. Whatever is your background, working as a team, working as a common team, as a coherent team, that becomes the key for success for any organization. The fifth competency which we follow is nurturing your team. I mean, when we have multiple team members in our team, each team member requires a different kind of focus and attention for nurturing him or her. So how me as a manager, me as a leader, how can I nurture my team? It becomes my continuous effort to nurture my team. Then comes challenging the status quo. That means we always we encourage people to challenge the current situation and bring something new, innovative, do something different, come up with innovative ideas, innovative thoughts, and move ahead. The last competency which we very strongly follow is keeping your customer at the core of every action. Whatever we do, ultimately you are doing business which is focused on your customer. If you do not have a customer, irrespective of whatever business you are doing, you will not be able to flourish in any business. So the strong competency framework which we follow actually brings in all the people together, irrespective of whether you are a Generation Z employee or Generation X employee or Generation Y employee. It doesn't matter. And my last point would be this particular topic or issue will be there today. It will remain after 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. However, the successful companies will be those who will be able to integrate people from different generations very, very closely and leverage the best of each of the generation. The younger generation, they are high on energy, high on delivery. You'll have to leverage from that. The older generation, Generation X, Generation Y, they are high on their wisdom, experience. You'll have to leverage from their wisdom and experience. And if you are able to do that well, it will be a win-win situation for all the stakeholders in the organization. These are some of my thoughts which I wanted to share. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for the interesting deliberation you had. Now I would like to request Mr. Parthasarathi Bheluri to initiate his deliberation. Sir, please.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yeah, thank you. It was pleasure hearing to you, Dr. Sahu.
Thank you.
My session basically, before getting into this multi-generational workforce, some of the basic elements, particularly coming to who are called as baby boomers, who are traditionalists, who are Generation X or Generation Z. Everything have been covered by Ajay Sahu. So I would just like to give a macro scenario before getting into the actual multi-generational workforce. What are the challenges? Before understanding that, you need to understand what exactly is the emerging business environment. That gives you the crux of the whole how to tackle the issues and all. See, the emerging business environment, if you see at a macro level, it is offering a plethora of challenges for the organization as well as the individuals and leaders. And only those organizations which can unlearn the past practices, they will be able to find a place in the future. That's why if you see every year in the Fortune 100 companies and all, I believe 80% of the companies are wash out. Last 5 to 7 years, that has been a trend. Means the order of 1 to 60, 70 companies are just washed out by next year. This is because of, as you know, various factors of innovation, creativity, or new way of practices. That's the reason every organization should learn to unlearn the past practices which are dogmatic or which are not relevant to the context and all. Now, another very critical element here is balancing the opposites. This is the order of the day. The organizations, gone are the day where we had a kind of a very, very state-jacketed method of dealing with the management or dealing with the people, dealing with the processes. But today, organizations themselves, you see, in the kind of, particularly in the advent of this corona and this pandemic, many of the organizations had to literally wipe out all the old practices and adopt completely new practices to continue and to sustain, which my own company, which is a digital company right now I'm working for, it is an e-learning company for medical education. We create medical content for the entire medicine, dental, nursing, and homeo. And last 5 months has been a phenomenal challenge for the senior team to sustain this company. So that's the reason, as I said, the dealing with multi-generational workforce is exactly like dealing with the balancing the opposites. So it's not that a choice, sometimes, you need to take on these challenges and there is no choice for you to escape or anything. Now, coming to the next part, what is the new age organization, which I am talking about, or new paradigm organization? The new paradigm organization has following characteristics very critically. I think if I just say sum up and all, you all know, we are all in this new age organizations, where some of the characteristics are individual and group empowerment constitute these new age organizations. Learning becomes a very, very critical. It's a pivotal for every organization because it's a continuous learning process. What you learn today, in fact, in Microsoft, particularly the software companies or digital companies, within 6 months, the technology is getting redundant. So that's the reason learning is something going to be a phenomenal and very critical for every organization to serve a new age. Then flexibility. Now I'll dwell deeply on this. What is this concept of flexibility? Flexibility of the styles, flexibility of leadership, flexibility of the way on a compensation structures, everything. So organization cannot say that we will deal only this way. Gone are the days. In fact, when I started my career, I think probably myself and Dr. Sahu, we might fall in that baby boomer kind of category. I started with manufacturing, Nagarjuna fertilizers, and then steels, and then cement, then infrastructure companies. Surprisingly, there was a structure, there is a kind of method of kind of madness there. But today, we cannot go the same way. We cannot have the same kind of a recipe. The recipe has to be changed every day. It's like Australian MasterChef program. Our younger generation requires every day a new recipe, every day a new kind of ingredient. Otherwise, they will not like the. Then similarly, more and more organizations are becoming flatter structures and all. When I started my career, you'll be surprised to know that in manufacturing, particularly in fertilizers, we had 24 levels. 24 levels, starting from management trainee to managing director. And we tried our level best to bring it down to almost 12 levels, and there was an uproar. There was almost virtually like kind of a strike, kind of a scenario. Then we had to convince and communicate and say why we are doing that. But today, you see some of the international banks, or our own kind of Indian banks like HDFC and all, there are hardly 4 to 5 levels. Like probably a management trainee will start with as associate vice president. Then next is vice president, and then we become something like director, finance and all. So complete flattening of structures. And there's a lot of emphasis on cross-functional kind of a program and all. Really, hitherto it is very highly specialized. A guy who's in finance and has to deal with finance, and in accounts department, accounts. But today it's not the same and all. Accounts guy is attaining certain kind of competencies and becoming in finance, or even he's being pushed to HR. I know of many of my colleagues who have been core finance guys in Dr. Reddy's becoming HR heads and all. So this is another phenomenon which is happening. And gone are the day. Now concepts like after this evolution of software, IT companies like Satchem and Infotech and Infosys and all, you see a lot of networking between the companies is taking place, a lot of networking. And every organization is becoming quality conscious. This is the new age organization is ultimately quality matters. Come what may, whatever the kind of systems you have, whatever the kind of compensation benefits, nobody's bothered. Unless and until you deliver quality, the company will not survive. Similarly, it's becoming more customer driven and market driven, which you all know, I don't need to emphasize. But more than that, even manufacturing or the old age economy organizations are becoming tech savvy, informational driven organizations. Now we are talking of SMAC, social, mobile, analytic, cloud computing, and plus and all. So slowly and steadily, even the old age economies are becoming highly technology oriented organizations, for which it requires a different set of manpower, a different set of thinking, different mindset. Then, as you all know, finally, the new age definition of an organization, time is a strategic dimension. The time of your delivery, for example, 24 hours delivery by a tractor company, Ford company in America, and pizza delivery, 30 minutes. Otherwise, they will offer you a kind of free pizza. So that is the kind of, so time is going to determine all your entire organizational kind of capabilities and all. Now, second kind of component which I'm going to do is what is the new paradigm of business and what are the kind of organizations tending to change from the old mindset to new mindset. Now, what is this new paradigm, new shift in the organization is slowly from planned. That means at one time when I started my career, we had a 5-year plan of corporate planning and all. Now it's being thrown to dumps because what 5 years? You cannot even plan for 6 months now. In the month of March, whoever even dreamt of thinking of this kind of 5 months period sitting at home and working from home. So at one point in time, I was trained for corporate planning exercise and guidance for the organization of fertilizers for 5-year planning. Now that became 3 years, now 1 year. Now it's, I think planning is for day to day. You need to be. So planned kind of a focus became to entrepreneurial. Then from hierarchy-oriented organization, it is becoming more and more networking. Then from rigidity, organizations are becoming more flexible. And from, at one point of time, as I said, when I joined, it was like rank, the title, the general manager, and this kind of, I'm a vice president. Those are the kind of words, buzzwords, which were actually very like a sweet and honey to the people who want to aspire to become in the corporate giants. But today, we are not talking about titles and ranks because with the brilliant, these young millennials coming into the fore, now we are talking about being helpful is more important than having a rank of vice president. To hell with your vice president or GM-ship if you cannot contribute to the organization. So how you are being helpful. So from problem solving, organizations are more tending towards transformational. And from competing, it is slowly becoming to building. From competing, we are trying to build. Then from institutional, the focus is again going toward individual based and all. And from stability, gone are the days of stability. Now we are talking of change management, because every individual has to be changed in the organization, trained in the organization of change management, because change, the only permanent thing in this world, as our Lord Buddha said, is change. That is the only thing inevitable. So if you are not prepared for a change, organization will perish. Then finally, organizations leadership, dogmatic leadership too, we are talking about inspirational leadership and all. So I've dealt with the macro scenario of business and emerging environment. Then we talked about the changes in the business way we are thinking and all. Now third change is what about leadership? Now here what I mean leadership is, I'm not talking about only at the senior level, executive level leadership. Leader mean even HR leadership. As far as I am concerned, after my 33 years of experience, I feel that gone are the days where, human resources is dealt by only one kind of a department called human resource development or human potential development. Human potential development is not a kind of a function or department. It is an aptitude. It is an attitude. So every line manager in the organization is an HR guy. So you cannot say that this multi-generational workforce challenges are to be dealt by only HR department. It has to be dealt by every line manager who himself is an HR manager, who himself has to face these challenges and all. So now coming to the third part, the component. Now, what are the challenges which a modern day 21st century leader in this multi-generational workforce is going to face? Now, change, as I said, a leader has to deal with very important thing, four things. One is technology, global competition, competitiveness. Whether you like it or not, your company has to compete with Microsoft or compete with kind of the topmost or Korean company or Chinese company. 15 years back, this was not the scenario in Indian companies. But today, even a small company in high-tech city in Hyderabad or in Orissa or in Vizag, we are supposed to compete globally with their standards of productivity, with their standard of ISO thousands and all, whatever the international standards and all. Then on a third is shareholder value. A leader has to deal with the shareholder value. Means what is the kind of value he's going to generate at both short term as well as the long term. Otherwise, the shareholders will throw you out, throw your company out. And fourth important is knowledge society. As I said, gone are the days where I think myself and Dr. Sahu were dealing with some kind of a workforce which were kind of more, which had its own pattern, which had its own kind of a pace, it has its own kind of way of working. But today, every organization is dealing with knowledge crowd, knowledge kind of oriented, youngsters, in the sense, people who are adept with new technologies, and their way they are thinking, I think their emotional quotient, their spiritual quotient, their IQ are totally different. So we require a multi-dimensional kind of quotient. I think you require multiple. We should become Narasimha Avatara, a combination of a man, human being, an anthropomorphic form of, and HR has to become anthropomorphic, deal with their spiritual quotient, their emotional quotient, then intelligent quotient. Then only the organization can become successful and all. And a leader or HR manager has to be a change agent, a visionary who can really, he can sell the vision. In fact, every leader today in the organization has to sell the vision. Why we exist, why our organization exists, and whom are we competing? Who are our kind of competitors? This has to be done right from managing director to office boy. They should know why they are existing and who is paying salaries. Because at one point of time, when I joined, when I asked a question in my training session, they said, no, we are being paid salaries by our managing director, which is bullshit. Today, you are being paid salaries by somebody, a customer sitting in Korea or in Africa or in USA. So so you have become completely customer and market driven kind of a thing and all. So this particular thing of what is the vision of the organization, mission and values and ethos have to be driven so that everybody should be on the same page. That became some kind of a great level for the organization and all. Now, coming to the actually multi-generational workforce, I don't want to dwell who are already Dr. Sahu Saab has very clearly dealt. So you all know that, up to the generation of 1964 baby boomers, who are, generation X, who are generation Z and all. Now there are three kind of keys, how to manage these challenges. One is, I feel that prioritize flexibility is one of the most key challenge. Means understand your workers, what are they, and there is no one size fits solution for all. For example, if you go to a tailor or if you go to a doctor, there is no kind of a prescriptive one garamacin or one kind of a neomycin for all the kind of, you cannot give the same medicine to everybody. Horses for courses is going to be the order of the day. So you need to understand the competencies, the behaviors, because organization consists of a composite individuals who are very complex. Their competencies are different, their complexities are different, their behavioral patterns are different, their expectations are different, their work ethos are different. So as Dr. Sahu has already mentioned, the people who born in 60s and all, their work ethics are totally different because they were very insecure. At those times, the jobs were very few. So they were workaholics. You see, I think I used to hear that some of the banking professionals used to work 18 to 19 hours a day to complete their auditing and all, because they never had the advantage of computers. But today, a banker will go home by evening like anybody, because they have advantage of the technology and all. So we need to understand that flexibility, and organizations have to prioritize the flexibility and accommodate various working styles. When you are dealing with the generation, older generation, elder generation, you need to adopt a kind of a coaching style. You need to adopt a nudging style. You cannot dictate them. You cannot become authoritarian, because they feel, because of their age, their experience, they feel that you are equal, because the managing director today is much younger to them and all. So he needs to deal with them in their own way, give respect to them, and they require a communication which is more one-to-one, as compared to the millennial generation, which your daughter and my daughter, they are more comfortable with texting, they're more comfortable with emails or very crisp messages and all. So they don't want to waste their time in meetings. Gone are the days of having a whole day meeting and all. Today, younger workforce, millennial workforce just require a different kind of style. So in a coaching and mentoring style or authoritarian style, so you need to adopt a different style for different. So for which you need to understand the psyche, the DNA of each individual, particularly at the different generations and all. And accordingly, I think you need to be flexible. Now I'm saying compensation structures. For example, when I started my career, people were more interested in long term. So that's why we introduced so many schemes: Provident Fund, family pension scheme, hospitalization scheme, then even kind of group pension scheme, all kinds of schemes. So they were not bothered about your carry home. Their package was very less. But today, I'm working in an organization which is a digital organization. When I try to introduce kind of the Provident Fund, they said, to hell with your Provident Fund. We don't want. We want as much as money to be carried, so that I want to spend today itself. I'm not bothered about what you give later. I want everything to be given now in cash, hard cash. So you design your compensation structures in accordance with the kind of the aptitudes and ethos of the youngsters and all. So compensation structures changed, benefits changed, our way, the entire schemes changed and all. So these are kind of some of the flexible approach. Now, next important second point to deal with this kind of multi-generational workforce is dispel the generational stereotyping. Now, not only, I'm not probably generalizing here in India. I even worked in Bulgaria and some of the European countries for metal steels. The stereotyping, man by nature is a kind of he tends to become very, our brain is made in such a way that we stereotype. The moment you see a person, you start judging him. You say that, oh, the first look itself, you try to frame a picture, say that, okay, this is the guy, he must be lazy, or his body language looks like he's very laid back. So this stereotyping actually kills the organizations many times and all. I think the main function of a leader, either is HR or line manager, is to dispel these myths of stereotyping. As Dr. Sau has already mentioned, they have already categorized that in the people who were born in 60s and all with the work ethos, very alcoholic, and they are very, very kind of committed, but at the same time, they are not open to new ideas. They are very, very they would like to be, very, very loyal to the organization. Whereas the younger lot, millennials, are not loyal to the organization. Only they are mercenaries, but at the same time, very innovative, very intelligent, but at the same time, self-centered. And they leave the organization every now and within 2 years, I think they want to just leave the organization. So this is the kind of, again, stereotyping done by maybe our own kind of tribe, HR professionals or psychologists or whatever maybe. But with my experience, I think stereotyping is a slew of myth which has been exploded. We need to destroy that myth. If somebody feels that way, we need to have a mirroring exercises, many collaborational kind of initiatives where to drive home the point. Because I worked as a consultant for Andhra Bank, because one of my friend was a director and they were implementing ERP. Many of the entire Andhra Bank officials were opposing ERP, Enterprise Resource Solution. They thought that they will lose jobs. In fact, that was the scenario those days. So I addressed almost 60 training programs to all the at various levels and all. We dispelled the myth, say that in fact is going to give you a comfort. Then finally, after almost 1 year training and all, they finally accepted. And then today, some of the older generation people, they are so committed. In fact, they have become so adept with the new technology, they can even compete with the youngsters. So there's no hard, you just cannot have a kind of a great divide, like they are like that and this. So we need, the organizations have to be extremely careful and wary about stereotyping of either generation. Then third most important is, already I think Dr. Sau sir has covered, but I would like to, because we have implemented in our previous organizations, is to encourage a lot of cross collaboration and mutual mentoring initiatives. Now, how this will happen? I was working in infrastructure company which had a construction, real estate, mining, solar, and transmission distribution, which is a $1 billion company. And it had a kind of workforce from all generations and all. So we had to implement SAP for finance. We had to implement for all systems for HR, SAP, everything. So we faced similar kind of challenges. But what we did was, we created kind of networking teams, multi-generation teams there. So anything to do with kind of networking, anything to do with technology, or anything to do with communication and development, we put youngsters as the heads and ask the kind of the elder generation to get trained under them for any kind of computer mechanization and all. Whereas elders were mentoring the youngsters on interpersonal relationship, on coaching, on EQ, on spiritual and IQ quotient, particularly on spiritual quotient and emotional quotient, because that is where, because of kind of impetuosity, because of the age sometimes being impetuosity, whereas maturity at the age of 40 because of various work experiences and all. So they were asked to mentor the youngsters on soft skills, whereas technical skills, the youngsters were mentoring the elders and all, for which the senior team had to put in a lot of efforts, because otherwise it was very difficult for the elders to put it in a kind of in a mentee approach and all. So lot of cross collaboration. Then another very important thing is I'm talking about is, most important what I learned in working in Bulgaria is cross-cultural collaborations and all. Many organization has to build a composite culture. I'll give a small example. Within 1 month of joining there, on the instructions of the higher up and middles and all, I had to sack a director of finance who has come from Delhi, just for the reason, because without understanding the nuances and sensitivity of a Bulgarian culture, he made some kind of a loose comments, which resulted in a kind of a big commotion, and almost on the company was on the verge of a kind of a strike and all. So for next 1 month period, entire top team were given cross-cultural orientation. So it is a very, very essential for the organization to build this composite cultural kind of ethos for the organization, so that which includes the entire, the nuances, which includes the belief systems, culture, ethos of the entire, all the generation to put together, elderly or millennials or generation X or generation Z. So to sum up, I have just made 8 suggestions. What are the key kind of things which you can do to deal with the multi-generational workforce? One is to set clear expectations about organization, values, and systems. And number 2, create space for multi-channel communication, that is open dialogue system. Now this is because, as I said, communication cannot be the same for the elders as well as the millennials. You need different kind of communications. You need formal as well as informal communication. So your organization has to have the entire broad spectrum communication channels. Then flexibility in style. Now you cannot have the same style for same everybody, horses for courses. Similarly, provide regular feedback mechanism. I think that probably solves many of these problems for multi-generation workforce. And avoiding stereotypes. The moment the HR or senior leaders come to know about some kind of stereotyping, you should call out. You should immediately pinpoint and call out that. Then develop ways to shape and transfer knowledge. Knowledge transfer is other very, very important thing which HR and senior leaders should take up and all. And provide a professional development in technical and all, in technical and in general managerial and all kinds of things and all. So these are some of the kind of key characteristics wherein you can deal with the multi-generational workforce. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. It was really a nice talk. Beautifully you explained. Okay, now I would like to request, thank you, sir. Now I'd like to request Dr. Stephanie Merrick, please share your deliberation, ma'am.
Yes, hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
What I would like to say, and thank you, Dr. Sure, you've already gave that overview of what the multi-generation is. However, there are 4 that's now currently in the workplace. The landscape has actually changed dramatically. We're looking at baby boomers who are normally already getting ready to retire. Because of what's going on now within our universities, our state conditions, they're staying longer in the workplace. So not only we having baby boomers still in workplace, now we have the latter part of the people that are coming in are the Y generation, which we call the edge generation. And we call them that because there are a lot of technology, a lot of computer experience. But what we need to do on this landscape is bring it all together, and I call it the triple C's. We need to be able to communicate, collaborate, and be connected. I think one of the most important factors in a workplace in all generations across bridges, we got to communicate with their voice of reasoning. Our older generation, we like to be very written, paper-like. We like to make sure we take notes. We need to know how to go back and review things. Where on the latter end, we got the generation that love tech, where they like to text a lot. And so their communication is very limited. If you get them in a room, they're not even able to communicate with each other, let alone someone in a company. And let's go back to what Dr. Mensch said. I talk about being able to work and network cross-discipline with each other. I know for the generations now, they're coming in, they want to learn. They want to be able to understand, they need direction. That's what that generation needs. So we as the Y generation, X generation, and the baby boomers, we have to have a little bit more patience, because although the Y generation, we're very educated, you got the Y generation, very educated. And then you got the new generation that's coming in. All they want to do is learn, soak up everything. They actually have to be handheld a little, meaning they want direction. If you give them direction, then they're ready to move forward on anything that needs. So how does that work in a dynamics of, you got managers who are coming in teaching or over your grandparents, right? You got millennials, the X generation coming in being supervisors. You look at Facebook, you look at Yahoo and UPS. We got people who are graduating as young engineers coming in 18 to 20 years old, going into companies that are now managing people who have been in the workforce over 20 years, older than they've been born. So what we have to do is find a way to be able to communicate across lines with each person. And doing that, that means we need to be able to have mentors. We need to be able to be coaches as a generation. So when you talk about teams, the dynamics is this. You got the experienced one, you got those who are technology savvy, and then you got the ones who have the emotional intelligence. That's a group of people that kind of work together to be able to make sure that the organization itself stays on target. I like this quote: the strength of a team is each individual member. The strength of each member is the team. And that's Phil Jackson. He's a basketball coach. I don't know if all of you know, over here in the United States, very successful basketball team. And I use that quote a lot because one person does not make the team. It takes a group of us to make a team, to make everything successful. I know for HR, as Dr. Mendes said, it's not just what the first level of leadership. And I talk about that in the sense of my dissertation was on employee engagement. And what I found out, people don't leave jobs, they leave leaders, or the people who they work with or work for. So we got to be able to collaborate, listen to each other. Not, we in a generation with 4 different people, so we can't be authoritative, or we can't be docile. We can't be that non-avoidance person. We got to find a way that we will be able to work together. And I think what that is being able to make sure that everyone on the team plays towards their strength. I'm a strength coach, and so I believe it's very important that everyone bring their strength to the table to be able to navigate and be productive in any organization. I may not be a strong technology person, but someone in the group is. I may be that person who is assertive and know how to get things done. You may have another person that have all the wisdom and all the knowledge space where we will be able to work together. Those KSA, which is those knowledge together in order for any team to be successful in what the business is looking for. In most cases, Tina Fey said, moving out the way to allow others to do their job. And when you do that on the organization as a whole, everyone wins. Now let's talk about when I say being connected. I mean, being able to reach people where they are in their jobs. I believe build on a person's strength. Build on your strength. Building on the strengths of each individual will be able to be more successful. For example, if I'm that person that likes to be a go-getter and get the task done, and then you have people who are procrastinators, but they're tech savvy. So you have to be able to connect with each other and actually you'll be able to have to connect with each other to be able to put out a good product. Customer service is important for any organization because we are each other customers, and then we got those external customers. So what does that product look like for internally. That means if we're here, I've been in HR education, and it doesn't. My background is medical, but I've been HR in medical. I've been HR in corporate, and HR rules and everything are the same. But what makes it different in each platform is the way that you carry it out, right? So everyone knows the laws of HR. Everyone knows what we're supposed to do when it comes to treating our peers or our people right who we hire. So first thing we need to do is being able to actually team up with people that are in their strengths. Build on people's strengths and not their weaknesses, and that's what will keep them there. But if you want to talk about monetary, this generation now, the Y generation and the Z generation, is not about monetary value for them. It's about a balanced life. They are more important prioritizing. They want to be able to leave work and before nightfall. Some of us, we work 10 to 12 hours. The younger generation now, they're not working like that. If they feel like this, if the work is done in 4 hours, why not leave? Right? If everything is done and everything is taken care of, 4 hours should be enough. And a lot of times now, the companies are coming in where we are having to allow flexibility. And right now we're in this pandemic, the COVID-19, and what's going on now, everyone is being able to work from home. Work from home brings on challenges. If you are baby boomers, you may not be as tech savvy. If you are a younger generation, you may not like to sit still, right? We like to be versatile and move about. So you got to create a cohesive communication where you are actually working out with each other because the attitudes and the work styles are different now. People are having to work at home when they have children, right? So I may be an 8 to 5 person, but a person or a parent that have kids can't work 8 to 5. They may, now we're at home, you may have to work in the evening times once you put them to bed, 10 to 11. So at the end of the day, as long as the work or the project is taken care of, that's what matters most. Make sure you're being connected. And that means taking the initiative. A lot of times, our young generation don't take initiative. So we have to, as baby boomers or as the Y generation, we need to make sure that we're reaching out and connecting with each other. That's how it works. Communicate, communicate, communicate. Whether you're a millennial, a Generation X, even baby boomers, we're here to work on the same goal. And what that is, I think back in 2014, they did a study that suggests that by 2011, it would be 32% of baby boomers still working in the workforce. And that's when they're actually supposed to be moving out, but they're actually staying longer. And what we find is that the Y generation, they're more educated, but they do not move either. So we're having a cluster, I call it a T as well, a T where we got all the skills, we got the generations across, and their skill set is there. But once the baby boomers leave off, they take their knowledge with them. So I think companies now need to, and what they're starting to do, is do a framework of writing those things down, or training or mentoring the younger generation that are coming in. Because once the baby boomers leave with the information, then it's kind of like creating the wheel all over. So we got to be able to communicate, stay connected, and look at each other's work styles, how that affect or disinfect the way we work. I believe that the workforce now, the landscape is demographics about being diverse. So we got to talk about a lot of diversity that's going on. Now the generation that are coming into the workforce, they are looking to create space for everyone to work. It has to be not just equal. They're looking for equality. And then I understand why it would take them, as baby boomers, we worked in a place where we went on promotions year by year and what we did. Whereas now, the generations that are coming in, they're ready to work. If they know the information and if they're ready to apply it, they're coming in wanting to be your wanting your job. Me as an HR person, and I listen to a lot of interviews and I give a lot of interviews. And the generation now are coming in, they're not even ready to. They're ready to know how to do my job. They're coming in wanting to do their job. So you got a facet of different level of people coming in. The best way to handle that is know how to communicate with them. Communicate is not a direct person. It's about helping them navigate how to your level. They want to be in that leadership role, but help them navigate and how to process that, as opposed to, because what I do is more than just technology that makes everything run. I know that's what's going on right now. Technology is taking on, but what we need to do is gotta learn how to communicate with each other. We gotta learn how to make other people feel like their customer service is important. I want to kind of close out a little bit because I see the time frame is going and you might have questions. What I would like to say is remember to communicate, stay connected, and definitely collaborate. And with collaboration, that means you got to build teams of mentors. You got to build teams of mentorship. I would like to go ahead and end on that note and say people can't hear and time frame is closing in. I'll talk back over to you, Dr. Dash.
Yep. Babu?
Oh, Dr. Dash.
Hello, good evening. Hello, good evening. Now we just completed this deliberation of all cabinet speaker, and I thank Dr. Mary for her good sharing. And now I would like to ask a few questions, and there are a few questions asked by the participants. The first one by Sahit Dharitri. Participant asked to Mr. Ajay Sahu, sir, in the future offer letter or contract, will there be a force majeure clause with regards to any eventuality, etc., which the employee has to ensure?
Dr. Das, I could not hear your question clearly. If you can help me with the question once again.
Hello.
Dr. Das, can you help me with the question once again?
Sir, Is it question to Mr. Abhyas Sahu? Sir, am I audible?
Your voice is
Am I
breaking.
audible, sir?
Yeah, you are audible, but your voice is breaking. I could not hear you properly.
Hello?
Yes,
Hello?
Professor Das.
Hello. Sir, it's audible. Hello. Sahu sir, hello. It's audible.
Yes, I can hear you.
I'm just transferring to Professor Das.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible now.
Yes. Sir, there are a few questions are there from the participant. One question, one participant has asked, in the future offer letter or contract, will there be a force majeure clause in regards to any eventuality which the employee has to ensure?
Okay. See, I'm not sure whether, in what context it is being made, but in future, in case of any contract, if there is any force measure which has to be kept, it has to be with common understanding between the employer and the employee, number one. And number two is that it should be administratively or practically, it should be applicable. I mean, if anything is there which is not applicable practically in future, which may not work well. If I give you an example, let's take for example, if the company has nominated an employee for a education abroad and sponsored the education fees for the employee. And post the education fees, the employee completes the training program or education, there is always a bond saying that if you leave the company, then you'll be required to pay this much amount as compensation. But practically what happens is it is absolutely difficult to implement or enforce that kind of a clause. If you see, most of the companies have done away with that clause as of now because it doesn't work. It is not legally enforceable. So any kind of force measures for future has to be practically implementable with the understanding of all the stakeholders, all the parties who are signing the contract.
Thank you, sir. Sir, there is another question. With reference to your organization, what challenges you face while integrating these generational workforce diversities?
Okay. See, as I mentioned in my initial talk also, that this problem or these challenges are there today, it will be there tomorrow. But what is more important for the organization is to how do we integrate everybody together and have minimum challenges as possible. So if we take an example in our organization, like I mentioned, we have say companies which are in retail or ITES, media entertainment, FMCG, which are the sunrise companies, and the age profile in these companies are very less. At the same time, we have companies which are into manufacturing in the power sector or carbon black, where the age profile would be slightly higher. What we do is we create our practices, policies, culture, leadership in such a way that it becomes inclusive to everyone, whether it's a young person who is joining fresh from the college or someone who has worked for 25, 30, 35 years. We try to understand the aspiration, the expectations of each and every category of employees, and accordingly frame our policies and practices to that extent. But most importantly, even if you have your practices, policies in place, everything depends on what is your culture and how do you enforce or how do you implement those practices. For example, let me give an example. Say, let's take, for example, someone who had joined fresh MBA from a college, joining here as a management trainee. After a year of completion of training, the person comes to HR and says that, where is my cabin? Where do I sit? So the expectation of the younger generation is very different, that I am an MBA, so I have joined as a management trainee, I should have a laptop, I should have a cabin, I should have my team members working with me. But it doesn't work that way. As an organization, you will have to sensitize the people that this is a phase which is a learning phase for you. You have to spend 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, learn, contribute, grow with the organization, and then everything comes to you. So how you manage the expectations of each and every category of people, each and every age group of people becomes very, very critical. So, but the challenges will remain. How effectively you handle those challenges, it depends on the organization and your culture, your behavior. And one important part, what we practice in our group is, say, Mr. Parthasarathy also talked about leaders and leadership. So there is a slight difference between a leader and leadership. A leader may not have the right kind of leadership, or someone who is not a leader may have right kind of leadership. So a leader may be someone by virtue of experience, age, growth in the organization would have become a vice president or a president or a director. But the leadership, someone who is at the junior management level also can display a very high level of leadership. So what is required for the organization is to nurture and develop good leadership within the organization. That is what matters for the success of many organizations.
Just to add to your point, Dr. Sahu Saab,
Thank you so much.
we
there is,
faced a lot of,
another
particularly
question
when you
for
do a lot of
Dr.
recruitment from the
Mr.
premier
Parthasarathy.
institutes like IIMs and IITs.
Right.
And then you have recruitment from general engineering colleges and all. We face a severe problem because these guys, from IIM and IIT, their scale is almost equivalent to a general manager who has gone through 25 years of work experience and age and all. But these guys suddenly, they expect a similar kind of profile, similar kind of facilities and all. And it created a lot of issues in the organization. So that's the reason we were very, very extremely careful when we went to kind of premier institutes. We told them, and I had to, in fact, we did face some problems. So we had to tell them that, look, you may be brilliant, you may be very intelligent and all, but that is not the end all. In fact, for example, in the manufacturing, a foreman who is just ITI, but his work experience, his brilliance is something very critical to the organization. So sometimes these guys should go and learn from him. Otherwise, that knowledge management is gone. So I think probably managing the work, the expectations management is also a very, very important thing for leadership.
Absolutely right.
And what I would like to
Okay,
say,
sir.
should encourage and empower each other. So you do have that person that come in with a lot of knowledge and skill base. So empower the other people. Maybe that can be a mentor, a person that will be able to help bring the other people up to speed. Because one of the things that's really, really critical in the organization now, we got to work together because we're here with all generations working. And in order for the organization to continue to thrive and increase the customer service base or whatever that piece of product that you're selling. Whether we're selling education, we want kids, children coming to school, right? We want people to be in the manufacturing field. We want people to work in the medical field, but we got to be able to encourage, to be able to empower them to use and access their skill set. Even though we have this culture that's coming in that we're like, no, you have to go A, B, C. Now we're having to be able to be cross trainers. We have to be able to shadow. So even if you're not putting them in that position, because there is a ladder, there is a way to be able to still satisfy their hunger or their thirst of what they know they can do. And that's by encouraging collaboration, encouraging partnership within the organization of that team. Because you have to remember, now our generation, the younger generation, if they don't get it from you, it's okay because they'll go somewhere else. And then the younger generation now, we don't have to worry about, oh, we're not going to go along with what you're saying. I just create my own business. So so we want to keep everyone kind of empowered and encouraging, where we want to sustain a healthy organization where there's less retention. So when they do that, that means you have to build bridges, build platforms. Feel like they have an input of what's going on, although they don't have the actual title, but you can give them the sense of that because you're giving them some leeway to be able to help make decisions.
So thank you. Other questions to Mr. Parthasarathi sir. So there is a question, sir. The COVID-19 has seriously affected the economy of the world. Now the online activities are trading, but if similar situation happened to the online system, what is going to be the solution to the human resource management?
Yeah, see, as I said, there is no prescriptive method. For example, today, suddenly, every organization is now trying to particularly halve the salaries, and 50% of the salaries were cut. In fact, we ourselves have taken a beating, and senior team were taking only 50% and some 30% salaries for the middle level and all. Now, there's a lot of frustration which is kept in. So there's no physical contact. So this is where, and we are using technology. So HR is having a kind of a digital meetings with all the Zoom meetings with every level and all. And they are convincing, they are trying to tell them that, this is not a situation for only one company. This is a situation for the whole globe. This is an abnormal situation where it never ever happened. In fact, probably, I was just, trying to recap. After reading all the Astadhya Puranas, there is only one time the entire globe got affected was in Kruta Yuga, where Hiranyakashipu's brother Hiranyaksha, he took away the entire globe. And I think he submerged into the sea. After that instance, I don't remember whole world getting affected and all. So yes, I was just trying to talk to many of my compatriots, HR in IT, in infrastructure and all. Everybody is going through this kind of thing. I think it's a temporary, and this is where a leadership is required, a lot of motivation, and even youngsters are also facing a lot of psychological problems because 5 months cutting off from the world. So they are thinking that something is going to happen, and this is creating a lot of psychological problems. So this is where maybe HR can add to this kind of counseling skills, and then talk to these people and come out with health issue, any health bulletins. Maybe if they hear something, so these kind of things probably have to continue for some more time. And it's like horses for courses. As I said, you need to adopt a totally different approach. You cannot meet in physical person, but through kind of some kind of digital meetings. Now we are continuing. For last 5 months, we didn't really, hurt the company.
Thank you, sir. There is one more question for Dr. Merrick. Ma'am, there is a statement given by the participant, but with a question actually. The difference in style of communication between young and older employees may be obvious. Millennials rely on utilizing social media or other digital technologies to communicate with people in their environment, whereas baby boomers and older generation X prefer communicating face to face or via phone calls and emails. How do you manage this communication gap? Ma'am, am I audible to you?
I was. Can you hear me now? I'd say, in order to, I meet people. What we have to do as leaders, we have to meet people where they are. And this generation right now, we're doing the text. I have students texting me about questions, and so what I do is create a forum. So we have to create forums, not necessarily they want to text, that's fine, but let's create a forum for that. Here, there's Slack or group meets, we call group meet. And when there's time for meetings, I don't have an issue asking them or them telling me or asking where the meetings are. But when it comes to being realistic, we do have to make sure that we stay professional in the environment, and that's email, that's Blue Jeans. I know for here in the States where I work, Zoom is something that we can't use because we have to deal with people's privacy and their students. And so we have to use a platform where it's easier, which is Blue Jeans or Teams. So that doesn't bother me that they want to, I call it texting, but it's just short writing, quick messaging. They can do it in a platform. I have older generation that like the email. It's easier now when you say picking up the phone. Even I'm a visual person and I like to actually interact with people. So there is a platform where, just like we're here on Google Chat, there's this platform where we can pick up the phone and actually call on this chat. We can be looking at each other like this, but we're talking one-on-one. So you have to just meet people where they are, because we're in this, like you said, this pandemic, and people are being able to be at home and work. I want to go back to your initial statement when you talk about being healthy, especially young generations. We've make sure maybe you need to incorporate or put in programs about mental health or stress health. Just come up with some fun things in the classroom or in the institute, on the institute level, or where they have a platform or somewhere where they can go and talk to people, or even create those little pods within the classrooms. You got to be able to keep them healthy, or mental health, in a mental health state.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am, and for your nice analysis. And now we are going to end this session over here. I'm really thankful to all the eminent speakers. First, I would like to extend my gratitude to Mr. Ajay Kumar Sahu. Sir, really, you deliberated and wonderful talk. And very practically, you could really explain what exactly happens while managing this generational diversity and multi-generational workforce in the organization. And I'm also thankful to Mr. Parthasarathi sir. Sir, you are really explained very beautifully how to manage these technological knowledge issues where it is being created by different type of age. There is a kind of the complexity happens that some of the people have their kind of a stereotype that senior generations do have a difficulty in handling this technology. So taking to this area, you could really analyze in a very beautiful way how to manage this diversified generational workforce. I also thankful to Dr. Merrick, who could really explain how the communicational gap happens among these three generation groups and how to manage it effectively. So we are really thankful to all the speakers, and we are thankful to all the eminent participants who attended from different parts of the globe. On behalf of the entire ASBN family, I convey my gratitude to all of you to repose faith on us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you, sir.